live from our studios on Kairaba Avenue. Good morning, viewers, from wherever you're watching us from. This is QTV This Morning program, and I am your host, Jul Denjai, and I am joined by my wonderful co-host. I wouldn't use amazing because it's already somebody else's cliche. So I am joined by Mr. Mboj, who will be my co-host this morning. Good morning, Mr. Mboj.
Good morning, Jules. That's what I call her sometimes. What is it with this black thing?
You and Eliza, you should leave me alone.
How can I do that? Good morning. How do you feel today?
I'm okay. I'm doing well. I mean, yeah, I wake up feeling all positive vibes. Yeah.
Not waking up on the wrong side of the bed.
No. Certainly not. And of course, we're joined by our amazing newspaper review guest, Mr. Ade Drami. Good morning, Mr. Ade.
Good morning. When I'm there as co-host, I've called myself the not-so-amazing co-host. But I'm not co-hosting today. I'm newspaper reviewing. And we have a very distinguished guest next to me.
A very distinguished guest, like Mr. Ade said. We are joined by Dr. Ismail Asise, who is the Minister for Information. And he will be joining us to discuss key developmental issues of the government ranging from 2024 to 2025, because government has been, especially recently, since the Diamond Jubilee celebrations, the government has been commissioning or launching series of developmental projects. I mean, we will be discussing these and others in this morning program, so do stay tuned. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
Thank you for honoring our invitation.
Always a pleasure.
So today we will be starting off with Dr. Ismail Asise, not our usual morning show. And from there we will have the African proverb, and then the last segment of the program is the newspaper review. And our newspaper review guest is Mr. Ade Drami. Gentlemen, let's kickstart. Doctor, let us start with the key developmental agendas of the Barrow-led administration. Let us start with the recent ones, that is the 2025. Since after the Diamond Jubilee celebrations, we've been seeing that a lot of developmental projects, phases 1 and 2, have been commissioned, and of course the phase 3 has already been launched. Dr.
Yes, I think obviously this is in line with the President's broader vision of modernizing and transforming this country. And for the past 2-3 years, we've been laying the foundations. Development policy, particularly in certain sectors, is long-term. It doesn't just happen overnight with the planning, the procurement process, and all that, processes. It takes time. Now, Gambians will see the tangible results of all this hard work. The President is keen in delivering in 2025. And apart from the fact that provide stability, peaceful coexistence and security, there are certain key critical sectors which are very important for the President. And that is what I call explosive development that looks at every sector. Recently, as you see, when it comes to road infrastructure, apart from other roads that are built up country, the President commissioned the 22-kilometer Battle Harding Highway, which is a 6-lane highway with roundabouts and flyovers in certain critical junctions. The third phase of the Battle Harding Highway, which the President also laid the foundation stone for work has started in earnest, is to now extend and build the service roads. That is the side roads that flank the highway, which will also ease traffic. So that one will be a 4-lane, 2 lanes on this side, 2 lanes on this side, with obviously there will be another flyover at Sukuta Jabang traffic light, also to ease congestion. There will also be more roundabouts as well, and also this will come with all the road furnitures. So this is the third phase, and also some pedestrian crossing points, walkways, so that pedestrians can easily, cross from one point to the other. So this is the third phase. In the same way, the President also, in his drive to provide universal access to electricity, affordable but reliable electricity by end of 2025, he also commissioned a 225 kVA substation. It's one of the most innovative modern energy infrastructure. For the first time, we're having something like that. It enables energy to be able to be transported from far even outside the country, to be able to serve the population. So apart from that also, the president, the Diamond Jubilee is a whole year thing, like I said, it will go for the whole year. The president will inaugurate more projects, but also commission and also lay foundation stone for more projects. As you could see on Friday evening, he was in Bakote, where he also inaugurated the shelter, home for the shelter for old people's home, but also the shelter for an orphanage as well. This is a new building built by MRC Holland Foundation. Today the president will be in Kunkujang Ketaya, if I'm not mistaken, to inaugurate some more classrooms. And just to summarize, there are certain sectors which are very important for the president. Now, apart from the fact that there's peace and stability, we are focusing on making sure that every Gambian has access to clean water. And today, the number of Gambians which we have provided access to clean water to is never happened before in history of this country. There are communities in URR, in CRR, who are now having access to clean water than ever before. It's to provide electricity. Today, there are communities which they have never dreamt of having electricity in their villages or towns. Today, they are enjoying electricity. Road construction to connect communities. There are places today, places like in Kabada, in CRR, in Nyamina, we've built roads there where roads have never existed. But also healthcare. We have built healthcare facilities to provide healthcare delivery to communities, rural communities today. We've built modern facilities in places like in Jale, in Kiang, in places like Tumanda in Basse, Salikenye in Badibu, Sisemajao in Jokado. These are all ultra-modern medical facilities to serve those populations. And finally, obviously, which is electricity. I think I've named electricity, water, and schools. We've built classrooms. I think during the tour, we inaugurated some new classroom blocks. In the last village, I think it's called Bolibana in Gambia. That's the last village. And interestingly, the current Minister of Public Service, Babukar Boy, when they were building that school initially, he was the one who was the PS at education. They started that school. It was only a small corrugated classroom. And today, the president, through his efforts and the help of MRC Holland Foundation, they've built ultra-modern classrooms with computer labs in the last village of this country, just to ensure that every Gambian, no matter where you are born, you have access to quality education.
So let us start off with the first one. That is the recently commissioned phases 1 and 2 of the Battle Harden Highway and the foundation stone laying for phase 3. Where is the funding coming from, and how much are we really talking about here?
That's a good question. I can't remember. I don't want to give the figure. I used to know it, but I can't know the figure. But I'll find out. But I know it's multiple partners. I think ISDB is there, and the government of the Gambia also. But I think ISDB is one of the main partners there.
And just quickly on that, because before we go on to another subject, one of the things which I'm amazed has not been mentioned in the phase 3, which was mentioned at when they mentioned phase 3, is that they're going to actually be traffic cameras.
Yes.
For the first time.
I forgot to mention that. There'll be traffic cameras as well for security purposes, but also to ensure the traffic is safe. There'll be traffic cameras as well. I forgot to, but also the president also mentioned that there are also plans. This is different from the phase 3. There are government is also putting plans in place to extend the road from Airport Junction to Block to make it a dual carriageway. Currently, there's a dual carriageway from Westfield to Airport Junction, the 2 lanes. The government is planning to extend this from Airport Junction to Block. There'll be a dual carriageway, and those plans are also on the way for the government to be able to implement that as well.
Those that also include traffic lights, because I find it amazing that the entire country we don't have traffic lights on our roads.
No, obviously there'll be traffic lights. Even with the third phase, they'll bring traffic lights to some roundabouts as well. Yes, and this is work in progress. And like I said, look, since 1965, we've not had such infrastructure in place. And within 8 years of the president's assumption of power, we've had a beautiful highway. This is amazing. And also, I've seen the 3D version of the third phase. When it's complete, it's beautiful. It's amazing.
And I'm not working for government, but we did a side interview with the Minister for Transport, and for me it was kind of one, and people will see it on the news tonight. the fact that for the first time they're thinking of introducing the railway to the Gambia.
Yes.
I mean, similar to the one they have in Senegal, the kind of high speed, you can get from here to Basse in an hour.
So there's an integrated transport system.
That's right.
That we're going to introduce to make particularly public transport. Something like this, the BRT, post-rapid transport. We are going to work on that as well. So just to ensure that transportation in this country.
Because I did some digging into the Senegal one, and that was mostly funded by Islamic Development Bank. Was where the funding came from for that. So yeah. So sorry.
Amazing.
Well, that's for me. That's an exciting development.
Absolutely,
sure.
it is. It is
transformative. Absolutely.
Yeah. So you mentioned the issue of the solar power station, notably the one in Jambu, which was actually commissioned in March of 2024. And, in terms of the measures that the government is taking in place to ensure that there is sustainability and, maintenance, because that has always been an issue. I mean, we commissioned very good roads, very good infrastructural developments or projects. But at the end of the day, 2-3 years down the line, those areas that we really commission are either in a very bad condition or they are not being taken good care of. So the Jambur 23 megawatts power, solar power in Jambur, what is the government doing to ensure that there is sustainability of it, but also future use? How is it going to be used?
Well, I think it's currently 17. Work is underway to upgrade it to 20.
To 70?
Yeah.
Not to 20. It's 17 currently.
Yeah.
Now they work upgrade to 23 or 25. That is what's happening. We are also, currently the procurement process is almost complete to build 50 megawatts in Soma, which will also be scaled up to 150 megawatts at some point. Now all this geared towards ensuring our transition, it's called green transition, that is moving away from HF, heavy fuel, in terms of power generation, to green energy, which is the future. Even though green transition is always expensive, it's very capital intensive. These are capital intensive projects. Now, when it comes to the sustainability aspect, what the government can do is to lay the foundations and provide the infrastructure. It is left for the operational aspect, like NAWEC. It's their job now to ensure, because if there's no system, there'll be no electricity. And with the current NAWEC management, I'm hopeful that with their experience and competence, I think they'll factor in the sustainability aspect to ensure that these projects are sustainable. Like projects like this are always, they always have a sustainability component in it, because otherwise the whole thing will falter. But I'm pretty much sure that these projects, as long the sustainability aspect is built in the project, so I wouldn't have any issue with that.
And I think just come in there quickly. I think one of the things that might kind of guarantee sustainability, if we look at the contracts that were signed with the state-owned enterprises, the penalties are quite heavy if they don't hit their targets. If they don't hit like 63% of the target, 15%.
Yeah. Performance contract.
Performance contract was a very. It's quite for me. That's quite.
So we don't have an issue with that. What we have an issue with right now is since independence, we have not had any significant investment in the energy sector, both water and electricity, and that's a fact. Now, we've been having these old generators. Now, with the new energy roadmap, there are serious investments with partners. And for example, the high voltage that we just launched was sponsored by the EU and the European Investment Bank and the World Bank. So that one was good. But what I can also tell you is that we are modernizing our transmission and distribution infrastructure. It was old and outdated to the extent that it was at least over 20% of every energy sent to the grid was being lost. It's called system loss. So if, for example, car power produces 30 megawatts of electricity and sends it into the grid, before it arrives your home, before it is transmitted and distributed to your home, it would have lost because of the outdated nature of that system, was old and outdated. Now we are modernizing the grid to reduce system loss, but also to ensure efficiency and effectiveness in energy distribution.
Wow, good one. So let us now move on the Vulnerable Youth and Women Support Project, which was also commissioned or launched in October of 2024. I think it's a $14.7 million project. Talk to us about that, the impact it has had since October.
Well, actually, this is in line with government's overall vision to provide 150,000 jobs before 2028. In addition to that, yesterday, I don't know whether we are paying attention, we launched another 10 million euro project.
We were there.
You were there,
We
very
were
good.
there.
In
We
the
were
tourism and creative industries.
We were there.
Now, this is a project sponsored by the EU, to be implemented by the ITC, International Trade Center, working with two key sectors, that is the Ministry of Tourism and the Ministry of Trade. And this will go a long way in providing jobs. Like I said, government cannot employ everyone. What government can do is to provide the enabling environment, projects like this. And the good thing with this particular project is the money is going straight to micro, small, and medium enterprises to be able to now, because remember, over 65% of our population are very young, below 30 years of age, if I get the statistics right. And young people, when you think of young people, what you think of as creativity. And what we try to do in line also with diversifying tourism products is to ensure that we build the capacity of young people, give them the necessary support, hone their talent to come up with creative ideas. Like when I did Secunda last week, I asked the minister, no, not the minister, the National Center for Arts and Cultures director, Asum Sise, whether this project, we have a component in whereby we are going to support those in the arts industry, painting industry, where we can have art exhibitions in the Gambia, where you can go and buy paintings. Other countries are making a lot of money from it. So that project that you mentioned, which was launched, this is just an extension of that, to ensure that vulnerable group, particularly youth and women, is going to support them. And that particular project supported a lot of businesses in providing green energy for them. Because most of the, so what it does is that production cost is always expensive sometimes, particularly energy. If you're a small business and you have high energy costs, it brings your profit margin very, very, very slow, and it can take you out of business. So what this project was doing to some extent was to support these businesses by building solar infrastructure for them, so they don't rely on a high energy, so they can still save a lot of energy, even sell to NAWEC, and a lot of companies benefited from it. And the one we launched yesterday, that one we focused only on the tourism and creative industries to promote inclusivity and sustainability in the tourism, but also to make our tourism sector very competitive. Because remember, Cape Verde is attracting tourists.
And I'm glad you mentioned it, because I was about to come there.
Yes.
But carry on.
Cape Verde, I remember a couple of years ago, Cape Verde was on average 200,000 tourists. Now they've gone up to 1 million.
1 million,
tourists every year. But Gambia is more suitable than Cape Verde. We can attract a lot of tourists. And if you see the statistics, that every 10 tourists that comes to the country, they create one job. One job is created in the entire tourism value chain. So obviously, if we are able to diversify our products, make destinations competitive, and build the creative industries and develop it, believe me, we will talk about attracting 1 or 2 million tourists every year.
And that's one of the things that Pamela Cook-Hamilton, who is the executive director, she mentioned in relation to this specific project. And so, I mean, but also just very quickly on Cape Verde, I mean, we're talking about energy. This year, Cape Verde will become first country in the world to be 100% reliant on renewable energy, wind and solar. They're our neighbor. We can learn from them.
Absolutely.
This year.
I'm telling
first in the world.
we remember the time when Cape Verde came
here to learn
about tourism. Extraordinary, really.
It's a
we're
big
the
story,
pioneers.
It is.
I mean, there's an upside and a downside to it, because when COVID hit and tourism employed 25% of the workforce in Cape Verde, they really suffered when there was all the closures and nobody was flying anywhere. So there's an upside and a downside to it if a country becomes too heavily reliant on tourism. But certainly our tourism offer, we've not sold it well enough.
We have a competitive edge. Everything speaks for us. We have very pleasant temperatures during the winter seasons. We're not very far away from any part of the world. We speak English. You could travel to the Gambia from South America, from Europe. So, I mean, I've always argued that two things makes me believe that Gambia is one of the most strategically located countries in the world. See, when the British came, they were not interested in anything apart from the River Gambia and how far they could navigate it for trading purposes. It shows how strategic the River Gambia is. And the Americans use Gambia as their landing, emergency landing point, NASA. As a base. So it shows how we are in the middle of the world. You go this way, you go to Far East Asia. You go this way, you go to South America. You go up, you go to Europe. You go down, you go to South Africa. So I think Gambia should be a hub. and not only a maritime hub, but also an aviation hub. And this is the president's vision, and that is what we are working towards.
And it could have been an aviation hub because, believe it or not, the first ever time that they had airmail from Europe to South America, the stop-off point was where? The Gambia.
The Gambia.
First ever airmail. They stopped in the Gambia to send, and then another plane took off and went straight to South America. So but that never continued.
So we are working on reviving that. The government is working very hard through the Ministry of Transport to revive and turn Gambia into an aviation hub. We are going to modernize the airport. We are going to expand it. We are going to build, the plan is to create new runways and also to expand the airport. Because the idea is to make Gambia a hub, an aviation hub, whereby it will be a dispatch point. So all those going to South America will come to Gambia, transit. That transit alone brings money. Because if you have shopping malls in the airport, you have transit points, you have hotels, people will come and they'll be on transit. That 2, 3, 4, 10 hours they spend on transit, you know, they'll spend money.
I mean, you go to Turkey, and that is where Turkey makes a lot of money. Yes. Big transit point for Europe and Asia, and you go there. I've been there once, transit for 10 hours in the airport, and there are over 150 shops in the shopping mall. So you're right. I mean, it really could be transformative.
Absolutely. So still on the youth.
Just before we go on.
Okay.
Doctor, you see, was it yesterday or the day before, somebody came to me and said, do you know that there isn't a single traffic light working? And we remember not long they were working. You see, earlier we were talking about sustainability. If we've learned anything in the 60 years that we've had independence, is that how do we make institutions run well, sustainably? We are brilliant at starting things, but give it 2, 3 years and all of that. The endurance, the stamina seem to be lacking. I wonder if your government has recognized this really major shortcoming, and do you have a special program for this, a special scheme, as it were, to deal with it? If we've learned anything at all from the Nobel Prize winners 2024 about the institutions, what makes a prosperous country and what makes a country not to be prosperous? How do we run institutions? A good number of writers are saying that perhaps that should be the key. Then policies and investments will yield the results you want. You know where I'm going? That is really the key.
I really get your point. I know that we've been struggling with sustainability. That's been here for a very long time. That is why this government has recognized that. That is why what we do now, every project, there's a sustainability component being built in it. And that is, I mean, I cannot discuss what we discuss in cabinet, but I know that any project is discussed. We always ask, make sure that how do we sustain this project? And like he rightly said, the performance contract we have with the SOEs will also help you out towards that. But you made a very interesting observation that these traffic lights, none of them are working. But these are old traffic lights. They were brought a long time ago. I'm not sure whether you can even find spare parts for these traffic lights anymore. I don't know how they are procured. And that is why now the emphasis is when we procure such infrastructure, the thinking is sustainability aspect of it. How do we maintain solar power and all that? But there'll be traffic lights, and I think the Gambia Roads Authority will do a good job in ensuring that these things are well maintained.
Absolutely.
Can I just pick up on your point? Because one of the things I think, there's not many things that we would probably want to steal from Donald Trump, but this department that Elon Musk is, DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency.
Absolutely.
We need something like that.
We discussed it already.
We need something like that.
But I don't think, I think we have it. I think the Ministry of the Public Service Ministry and Delivery, it's called Public Service. Administrative efficiency, delivery. I think it has it. And I think Honorable Babukar Boy is doing a fantastic job in really building. It's a new ministry, you know. And that was the president's vision, thinking along the same lines, that if you want to build a prosperous country, you must have an efficient, effective civil service. A civil service which has competence, a civil service that can attract, retain, motivate civil servants, competent civil servants. That is what we are working on now. And you've seen there are serious reforms taking place within the civil service. And the funny, interesting thing is that when such reforms take place, people out from the outside wouldn't even see work going on, except when the results start to yield But I can assure you that the work that Honorable Babakar Boy is doing at that particular ministry, in the next 2 or 3 years, you will see a serious transformation in this efficiency of the civil service. So that will even outwit Dodge.
Let's hope so.
Speaking of the civil service,
okay.
recently it has been circulated that the government increased the salaries of
it's not it's a fact. It's not
it's a fact. Okay.
Salaries have been increased.
It's a matter of fact.
Yes.
So how much has been increased?
Well, I think it depends.
Okay.
It's like a scale whereby those at grade 1, grade 2, grade 3 got almost 100%. That's how it comes down to the PSEs by 30%. So on average, is roughly 30%. But 30%. Some have seen us at a doubling of their salaries. For example, those in grade 1, 1.2, grade 2, they've seen their salaries double. If you are receiving, let's say, 3,500, now receive almost close to 7,000 with all the allowances, transport allowance and housing allowance put together. This is geared towards cushioning the impact of the cost of living crisis. And remember, most countries are really reducing salaries because of the tight fiscal situation they find themselves in. Our neighbor, I've just said that recently they are trying to even close down a lot of agencies. Is it because because the cost of most countries are struggling. And remember, this morning I was also reading somewhere that the EU is even trying to cut down on foreign aid, and the new German president, who just got Friedrich Merz, is saying that he is going to increase German spending of defense in relation to GDP. How will he get the money? He will reduce foreign aid. Well, Britain will also reduce
I was just going to say, Prime Minister Keir Starmer
also made the same announcement that they are going to increase defense spending from 2.2 to 2.5 by cutting foreign aid. So now, but this is an opportunity for Africa. I think what I'm seeing is that the aid regime is dying and is going to die. Now, what does that as an opportunity is now Africa is going to thrive. Because when you sit and you are aid dependent, and this has been the president's vision. The president's vision has been to ensure that we focus on innovative ways of local resource mobilization. That is why this year, out of this 52 billion that is budgeted for, over 60% is going to be locally resourced. Over 60% will be locally generated. This has been, and the president's vision is to go 100%. So we are no more dependent on foreign aid and grants. And this has been the president's vision. And he saw this coming even before, and now we find ourselves in this with America pulling back, with Europe focusing on their security. They have to cut on aid. It leaves African countries now to come up with innovative ways of financing and local resource mobilization.
But this is precisely the key. Just let me just come in here, because you're not going to have improvements or tackling the situation in the best way possible uniformly across the continent. Maybe countries with good governance, good structures, may possibly be able to ride some of the tougher storms, as it were. So this is the key. Depends on what governments do.
I disagree.
Okay, how would they go together?
Remember, when after the First World War, the world came together and realized that one country's prosperity is dependent or contingent on another country's prosperity. One country's security is contingent upon another country's security. That regime failed. But after the Second World War, it really dawned on them that we need to do so. That's why they built the Bretton Woods institutions. They built the IMF. They built they brought the Marshall Plan, because they thought that the Americans at that time knew that Europe's prosperity and security is contingent upon America. So what Africa can do now?
That was to buttress America's rise. America's true rise with the death of old Europe was really in the Second World War. So they brought in all these international institutions really to buttress, as it were, their power.
As a realist, yes. You are a realist. So realist thinking dictates that. But as an idealist, as a liberal, I think that was done to make sure that we have what they call co-prosperity. Now, what Africa now can do is now to build, to replicate what was at the global level, at the regional level. There's Africa Exim Bank, which has a lot of funds to support African countries. We can create our own funds, whereby we attract investment into Africa, whereby our resources now, we stop exporting our commodities as raw, but also adding value to them and support each other as a continent. Because let me tell you something, we cannot go in silos, in isolation. Gambia's progress and prosperity is tied to Senegal and Guinea-Bissau and Guinea-Conakry and Mali's progress and prosperity. Gambia's security is also tied to this. So there is a way we should come together as a continent to find innovative ways to work together, to promote investments among ourselves, to promote trade. I mean, let's look at infrastructure. For me, my thinking is that the apayage coming from Senegal should come to Bara, should fly over the bridge to Banjul, and go all the way to Casamance, and go to Bissau, to Guinea-Conakry, to Ivory Coast. That is how we are going to boost trade. That is how we are going to promote investment among ourselves. But like I said, the world order, as we know it, is coming to an end. Sure. This is the beginning of the end of that world order. There's a new world order coming. And now, small groupings will have to work together, like what we see with the, how do you call it again? Brazil.
Oh, okay.
The BRICS.
The BRICS countries. Now we have BRICS Plus with Indonesia joining other countries.
Locally, we have the
Alliance of Sahel
States. So now what we need to do now also is to come up with countries that think alike, come together and do investments and promote trade, and so that we can promote co-prosperity.
That was precisely my point.
So let me throw in a curveball here. We're talking about infrastructure and development, and how do we transition away from and the new reality that we're facing now. Now, the Gambia, 2 years ago, a list was published by the World Bank. If you take the official and unofficial remittances to the Gambia, it's $1 billion. Yeah. Gambia, out of 55 countries in Africa, was 9th. That's insane. Yeah. How do we transition to getting the diaspora to become major investors in this country? Because a lot of what we're getting is to support people's daily living. How do we transition that to kind of cope with the new reality?
Yeah, it's to create a
fund. I think Rwanda's model is quite interesting.
So you create a diaspora fund, which will be used. But I mean, other countries are doing that now. Recently, I've seen, is it Malaysia? I can't remember, Indonesia.
Malaysia's
just
done
launched a new
Ethiopia's
fund.
done it.
Ethiopia. So I think Gambia and Rwanda has also done it. What Gambia can do now, the diaspora is contributing a lot to our economy. But like he said, it's at the macro level. You send to your family, they spend it, it goes back to the economy. But how do we now maximize the benefit of the power of the diaspora in terms of investment? This is key. And I think what we need to do now as a country is to have a summit where we'll now sit and say, hey, you know what? This is the new world order coming. What is our position in this new world order? What is our strategy? How do we confront these challenges? How do we find innovative ways of resource mobilization to ensure that our country becomes a viable? Currently, the president has built the foundation. It's just with a small push, with everybody's participation, both diaspora and Gambians at home. I think Gambia can become a model state.
Can I make a suggestion here?
Okay.
Give them the vote. And as that annual conference is, let them have a stake in the nation. If we give them the vote, they will feel they have a stake in this.
You mean
the diaspora?
The diaspora.
Well, because theoretically it's there.
But with or without the vote, without the vote, I think the diaspora, they're still connected.
They're connected, of course.
They can still contribute. The vote that's political. But I think when it comes to these things are not political. These things are based on how do we grow our economy? How do we provide employment for our young people? How do we become a prosperous nation state? I think this is everybody's responsibility, whether you vote or not.
But if I want to make them turn that fund, as it were, into a major investing machine, in a sense, that's political economy.
Yeah, I mean, the Rwanda
so you cannot take away the politics from it.
The Rwanda one, quickly, because both myself and Professor Fal were involved in that one. They wanted to build housing for public servants. And so what they did, they issued bonds to the Rwandan diaspora. $10 million they wanted to raise. Within 6 months, they raised it to build public housing for civil servants.
And you know how Eritrea survived the sanctions? Eritrea survived the isolation.
Of course,
Every member of the diaspora,
they contribute.
You contribute, but you are given a card.
Yeah, a card, that's right.
A card that when you come back home, that wherever you go to, it opens doors for you, get privileges. But every year, you pay money.
Absolutely. And it was curious. There are certain connections here. Just
time is our enemy. Time is our enemy.
The time, it's not there. But the good news is there is a press conference at 10 a.m. this morning, and we'll be live.
We'll be having the minister, the IGP of police, to come and lay his vision in terms of policing is concerned in this country, but also answer to some critical questions that may be raised by the media.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for joining us on QTV this morning program. Viewers, we will go for a short commercial break. When we return, the program continues.
Have you ever woken up to the soft reflection of the sunrise on the water, feeling its warmth on your skin? The waves welcome the thrill of jet skis while laughter and life come all around. From the vibrant scenes of the locals preparing fresh, natural juices to the explosion of colors in art, design, culture, and heritage. Every moment in the Gambia is alive with creativity and culture. At International Trade Center, ITC, we believe in the power of creativity to drive change and transform lives. That's why, after the success of the European Union-funded Youth Empowerment Project, ITC is launching a new initiative with funding from the European Union focused on strengthening the Gambia's tourism and creative industries. This initiative focuses on supporting strategies and regulations, strengthening institutions, investing in responsible tourism products, enhancing marketing and branding, strengthening MSMEs, competitiveness, facilitating market linkages, and improving skills, all within the tourism and creative industries. This project will unlock opportunities, nurture talent, and promote sustainability and inclusiveness across these vital sectors. It is a journey of resilience, innovation, and growth. Together with the government of the Gambia, our partners, and the Gambian people, we are shaping a future of sustainable prosperity. We look forward to when the Gambia becomes an all-year-round tourism destination where valued tourists are drawn to the vibrancy of our land. Join us in building a brighter, more sustainable and inclusive future by leveraging the Gambia's rich cultural heritage, beautiful landscapes, and creative potential to create opportunities for all.
The European Union Youth Empowerment Project, Tourism and Creative Industries, promoting sustainable and inclusive tourism in the Gambia.
Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, this is QTV This Morning program, and from that interesting segment with Dr. Ismaila Cisse, we are now moving right on to our African proverb. And Mr. Mboj, our African quote this morning, it's do not stand in a place of danger, trusting in miracles. Mr. Ade, what is your interpretation of it?
But that's kind of straightforward.
I tell people that all the time.
You know, prepare yourself. Don't. And to be honest, even if you take it away from standing in the place of danger, it's like you have people who don't study, and then when the exam comes, they expect to pass. That's expecting a miracle. You haven't put in the work. You know, so put in the preparation if you want to get the results. Don't kind of not prepare and then expect something to happen. You know, just to take it away from the literal sense of what that is about. So yes, I mean, for me, that's one interpretation, but there are many. But that's just one, I think. Mr. Mboj?
That's absolutely. You may have many, but they're all going in the same direction, really. For me, there's a very, very treacherous thing here, especially in this place. So many people are fatalistic. You don't have reason behind the actions, or what I held in a hell, you know, what is to be will be. Attitudes like that. So I think this addresses, really, attitudes like that. It's unbelievable. It is so apt that what action, whatever situation I find myself in, my most powerful, potent tool is my reasoning. calculating risks. Nothing is ever guaranteed, but you minimize certain things through your reasoning. So many times we leave it to all sorts of impersonal forces,
I mean, I was
some
going to say,
occult or some metaphysical
and not even that,
God.
I mean, one of the things that always amazed me is that when you've had a situation where somebody has been a really reckless driver and they've killed somebody, and we've gone to interview the family member, and they will say, oh, this Allah wills it. This is what Allah willed, that this is how they would die. I would be angry that this stupid driver didn't have brakes, you know, and didn't have a license or hadn't even passed the test. You know, get mad about that. But people are just, as you said, they're fatalistic, and they just said, you know, they kind of shrug. I've never understood that.
And you see the consequences all the time.
It's preventable.
And you see the consequences. You follow people for a while, and you see the consequences of that bad thinking. Then you have the bad results. In the end, you are like, oh, I've just been bad luck.
Bad luck.
I'm like, oh.
It's not bad luck.
It's not bad luck. So, gentlemen, we are moving straight to the newspaper review. You'll have to excuse me on my own interpretation. I totally agree with both of your interpretations.
Okay, we'll let you go because of lack of time.
Yes. So I have the Standard Point and Foroya with me. I will start with the Standard newspaper. And the main headline on the Standard is controversy over ASP Bintanjai's response to NPP supporters' comments. And, you know, it's been circulated that she's arrested. The police is saying no. But the good thing is that we'll be engaging the police PRO later to give detailed account of really what happened.
Yes, I think called in for questioning rather than arrested. People kind of extrapolated the thing, and you know, she was, I think, called into question. Are you making this statement in your professional and or personal capacity? So that's what that's about. So as you said, we hope we'll speak to her successor, and he will update us on that.
But I'm sure there'll be certain general points. What was said?
I can read you what was said
I think
by
that's
important. Before
what was
she
actually
responded.
said, yes.
So he said that, you know, President Barrow and NPP wanted to take the people of Kiang to heaven, but they prefer going to hellfire. They will be buried into ashes. And the most ungrateful people, this is the bit she responded to.
The Mandinka version.
Okay, well, you can read
Let me help you with that. Kiang Kolong Mandua Soto, meaning the people of Kiang do not have prayers.
Yeah, quite.
Prayers,
That's right.
So
and then the third bullet point on Babukar Bahum's statement is the most ungrateful people in this country is, I'm reading literally, is the people, not are the people of Kiang. When the people of this, I think he means this country, choose progress, they choose backwards. I think he means backwardness. So, so she should have just corrected his grammar and left it at that, actually.
So later, the former police PRO, ASP Bintanjai, responded to this, and she started off the post saying
it's a long one, so don't
politics, division, national security, a call for response. So, but the first thing that I want to highlight is that from her statement is the fact that she started off with, first of all, I am not in any way politically affiliated, but I am Kianka and my people are not ingrates.
That's right.
So yeah, she started her post,
and
then she went on
and then she goes on. And I like the fact that she made the point that of all things, this should come at a time when the very government has come up with the theme, which we're taking as an annual theme, of marching in solidarity for self-reliance and national development. Well, there's no solidarity there. If you know, one listens to the initial quotes that are attributed to this Mr. Bahum.
So the police PRO is on the line, ASP Modu Musa Sisao. Good morning.
Yes, please.
He's in somewhere very noisy, but I think he can
hear us. Good morning, Mr.
I'm
Sisao.
stepping out. Yes, please, I can hear you now.
Good morning.
He can hear you.
Could you provide us a detailed update of what really transpired on the issues regarding ASP Binta Jai? Piero, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, sure.
Yes,
Repeat.
I didn't hear your question,
Yeah,
actually.
I mean, could you provide us a detailed update about Binta Njai's case? Was she arrested or she was called for questioning?
Thank you very much. I wouldn't go into the details like you asked. However, I would make it very clear we've already posted or published our position as far as the Gambia Police Force is concerned on this matter. What we want to say is that Binta Njai is a serving member of the Gambia Police Force, and that if there is anything that she has done that in contravention with our rules and regulations, there are administrative procedures that will be followed, and this is what the Gambia Police Force would do. Already, there are proposals out there that she has been arrested, she's been interrogated, and all that. So all of that is a false statement. She's a serving member of the Gambia Police Force, and because she is, if we need her to clarify anything, it's just normal that she will be invited and asked her position on whatever that may be. But just to make it very clear, as we speak, Binta is a member of the Gambia Police Force, and she's just from participating in the 60-year celebration, part of the My Pass. Currently, I guess she's on short leave. They are allowed to have some rest, then get back to work. And during which period this issue came up, and this is where we are.
Are there any anticipated legal proceedings or actions against her?
That would be very premature to say. Like I said, this is administrative. There are, when people are going to work, people can be late to work, and if you are persistent related, going to work late, there are administrative procedures to that. So it's the same. If, for example, let's say Binta speaks, in this case is that she wrote something about ongoing issue, which is attributed to a political statement or political whatever. But the position of the Gambia Police Force is that a serving member of the Gambia Police Force is prohibited in one way or the other from making remarks for or against, any politics or political statement, because we have to understand that the institution of the police has to be seen to be impartial and, enforcing the law, basically. So if for any reason that the Gambia Police Force deemed it necessary to actually ask Binta further as to the reasoning behind this and the fact that there has not been any official, he is not in any official capacity. Yes, it's very clear that Binta stated that she's not writing this in her capacity as a police officer. But now the question is, she's a police officer. That's what is important in the first place. And because of that, many people, including online commentators and media, are also quoting her as the former corporate relations officer of the Gambia Police Force. So in essence, it's difficult to differentiate a police officer, a public servant, as a person and also in his capacity as a police officer. So without going into details of this, I would just leave it at that Binta is a serving member of the Gambia Police Force. She is not arrested. She is not under any interrogation. But if the need arises, yes, she would actually be going to administrative measures that would determine whether what she has done is in line or not in line with established regulations of the Gambia Police Force.
PRO, can I come in here? It's Ade Darami here.
Yes, please.
I want to ask a question. Do we actually have laws regarding hate speech, or do we just hold workshops and conferences about hate speech? Because if I read something where somebody says these people prefer going to hellfire, they will be buried into ashes, people can make this statement because they know there will not be any comeback. But we talk about hate speech. Are there any laws actually in the Gambia governing hate speech?
At this moment, I'm not in position to actually, for certain, say it's there or not there. But I am quite sure there are laws around governing what people say that could incite violence and all that. So if in any case, like the case that happened, because when the Gambia Police was invited, we already put it on our Facebook that it has the potential to incite violence. That's what we said. Sure. And if that is the case, yes, there are laws around that. So this is what we are saying.
Okay, yes. Thank you.
That's it. My question, Piero, Sisao, Momodumbuchi, my question is sort of related to yours, because I was about to ask Babukar Bahum, the person who made the original statement, Is there anything calling him for questioning?
Which is what I was getting
That's
at.
essentially what you're asking. Or with him, there's no issue at all?
Yes. Like any other individual, Babukar is a Gambian, is a citizen, and any Gambian, any citizen, for any reason, is violate the laws of this land, the Gambia Police Force is mandated to investigate and come up with recommendation, charges, and all that. So it's the same thing that happened previously. Babukar has made statements that interest the Gambia Police Force. He was invited at the police headquarters, and the statements were taken from him, and he was detained, he was charged, and he was bailed. So this is what is happening, and investigation is ongoing. Okay. So I think I understand the circumstance, the situation, the tense at which this is happening, and it attracts a lot of, issues within the country. And the Gambia Police Force will continue to do this, to do their job, to ensure that they investigate, and if there are any charges preferred against him, he is found, then he will be processed accordingly.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Piero.
All right, please.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Wait, Eddie, look at this. This is, I just don't understand. I can't get it. When you read what Bahum has written, outrageous. We all know that you cannot stigmatize a whole region.
And a community.
There's bad thinking. There's no logic in it. The fallacies. The Babukar really commits every fallacy in the book. We know all of this. By responding to it, I'm giving it the dignity that it doesn't deserve.
And that's why I made the flippant comment. You should have just corrected his grammar.
Yeah,
absolutely. But by responding, look at where it has led.
Look at it now.
None of us had heard of Babukar Bahum and his statement. But now we have.
Making some very silly remarks.
Because of the response.
Is there anybody who's going to follow Babukar and think similarly?
What is his position?
I do not know. Who is he?
You've given him a kind of, oxygen to something that doesn't require that oxygen. Should have been starved of the oxygen of publicity. Unfortunately, it hasn't been.
It has.
The modern period. Remember the artist who took the banana, stuck a tape to it, and it became art.
Yeah, quite.
He said, this is, I can generate it by people talking about it. I have created it. That was the critique. People didn't get that. A lot of people were like, oh, look at this silly thing. I was like,
look at everybody's talking about it.
You have no idea the philosophical critique in what he just did.
That's right.
It was like with the urinal. Duchamp, who started that kind of sort of conceptual art, as it were. So people just miss that. But this is our age. Look at it.
So what else is in the newspapers?
So still on the Standard. No, let us now go to the Foroya newspaper. Farmer dies in road accident while traveling to withdraw earnings.
Okay.
That's
road traffic accidents are sadly all too common here. You could have road traffic accidents listed on the newspapers every single day. In fact, several of them a day. Such is their frequency in the Gambia. And that's a sad state of affairs when it's quite a small country. And once you leave the combos, then there aren't many vehicles. But because of the reckless way in which people drive, sadly, this sort of thing is an all too frequent occurrence.
Okay, so still on Foroya newspaper, you have... Okay, CSOs urge IEC to develop regulations on hidden campaigns on election day.
So there have been lots of talk around this recently. They're even talking about campaign funds. That they should look into, and they should restrict where campaign funds come from. That's a kind of dangerous thing to go down.
Do we have a law regarding that?
Say again?
That sort of thing is regulated by law.
That's right.
Do we have any laws regarding that?
That's what they want. That's what they want to introduce.
Okay, fine.
That's what they want to
introduce. Until
then, right. They want to introduce that amongst other sort of things that were discussed, certainly, and that's come from civil society organizations, because they think that you're going to get into a kind of dangerous territory where, and that's what they've tried to limit in Europe and in America, by saying that you have to know where the funds are coming from, and you limit the amount that you can spend on certain campaigns.
We just had Musk and what he did with Donald Trump. Let's forget that, all that money behind the scenes.
Well,
they bought the elections.
Of course. But so also, I think what has led to this one here is, for example, in what was a tiny by-election, look at the resources that were poured into it by the two main political parties in this country, you would have thought it was a National Assembly seat that was up for grabs.
I was amazed to
unbelievable.
Know the
and in fact,
it
has led to this
that
we were just discussing, you know, and quite unbelievable.
Yeah, so what chance that the CSOs would get what they want?
Right.
What chance? For God's sake.
Because I don't think from the political players, I don't think there's an appetite for it, for that sort of restriction that the CSOs are requesting.
Of course not.
It simply is not there, you know, and you know, I'm not sure it should be there.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
We've
it was a
pleasure,
really, to have both of you here.
Yeah, it's a stimulating one. I didn't even have my second cup of coffee, but I think this show was good enough for that.
Thank you,
That's sitting the appetite.
Thank you.
Yes. Then I'll Jules you. If you mboje me, I'll Jules you there.
It's as famous as Jules, trust me. So this is all we have for you in this edition of the QTV This Morning program. Until we come your way tomorrow for another edition. It's a bye from us.
Q Money and Orange Money has just made money transfer easier. Now you can send money from Gambia to Senegal directly from your Q Money wallet. So what are you waiting for? Get your Q Money account now and start sending money to your friends and families through Orange